Everybody, I'm Barbara Humpton. I'm the CEO of Siemens USA, and I'm thrilled also to chair the global initiative here at the club. And we have a special treat. Before we get started, I would very much like to introduce the brand ambassadors from Delta who are joining us today. If you would please stand. I know many of you have had a chance to meet the ambassadors who are with us. We will learn a whole lot more about this and the culture of Delta in the next hour, maybe a little less than that because I know you've got to go have special meetings. But first, I want everybody to cast your mind back. It's 1998. The millennium is approaching. Let's see, we've got Google, this new company that's just started. Oh, and Celine Dion is topping the Billboard charts. In that year, and Ed Bastian joins Delta as the VP of Finance. And what ensues is an incredible roller coaster, ups and downs. The merger, the purchase of Northwest Airlines, the foiling of the hostile takeover attempt by US Airways, the advent of COVID, and now 100 years of Delta.
Yeah.
How about that?
Thank you.
Now, thank you. Notes and cough drops. Let's not use the notes. This is going to be a great conversation. And Ed, as I get into it, I guess we're going to get into some hard-hitting business topics right up front. But before I do that, I just have to ask, this success that you've had at Delta, how much do you attribute to Tom Barkin, now president of the Federal Reserve?
Well, Tom takes credit for my entire career, so you get all the bad stuff too, Tom.
Tom was my last subject here for an executive conversation and got such a fantastic response.
He was one of the first people I met when I moved to Atlanta, and Tom was running the local McKinsey operation, and we stayed close over the years, and now he's in an elevated position. He's running the monetary policy of the, God help us.
We'll talk about that.
He's as bright and as talented, and thank God for people willing to put their service to our country's good. So thank you, Tom.
And in addition to that, just a note to everybody in the Economic Club of Washington, this is what it's all about, right? Building the networks, building the relationships, finding those people who will be able to work with you as you progress your business imperatives. And it's the network holding each other up that makes us all so successful. But this is a really crazy time. And I want to start probably with the most fundamental of the issues that you're dealing with these days, safety. Yep. And we know we've had to face tragedy head on this year, but we've seen you step into Washington and meet with Secretary Duffy and talk about the future of air traffic control. Just share with us, how do you see things progressing right now from that perspective?
Well, it has been a very, very difficult year, and as everyone here in this local area is painfully and personally, made aware of with that tragic accident that happened at DCA with that American Airlines flight. It's a wake-up call for us all. It'd been 25 years since we had anything comparable in our country, and we want our customers to take safety for granted.
Yeah.
Because we never take it for granted. It's the number one thing that we focus on and drill on at all times, at not just Delta, but all of the airlines. And one of the reasons why our industry has the safety record that we do is that while we are an incredibly competitive industry, the one thing we do not compete on is safety. We all work together. And whatever we learn of any nature, with it, whether it's our OEMs or partners at Boeing or GE or any of the other suppliers, or what we learn from the operations or the tech, we all share the learnings together, and we all share. So when something happens, we also share that loss. And the system's fragile, and it's been fragile for a long time. And innovation is not something that the FAA has experienced in decades. The air traffic control systems that we use today were largely a product of 50, 60, 70 years ago. Same systems. And how many technologies do you at Delta, I probably have a couple, but it's not the bulk of it. But the bulk of the systems are radar, point and shoot, and all of the archaic technologies and equipment that you can imagine. So thank God Secretary Duffy stepped in. He understood the need. We got a $12 billion down payment through the One Beautiful Bill. We have great appreciation for the administration for making that a priority. That's more capital than the FAA has had in a lifetime, candidly, focused on innovation. And while there's more to come by that, and I know there's people in this room already involved in whether integration work or some of the equipment, this is massive for us. In fact, we met with Secretary Duffy this morning, just up the street, getting an update from him on it. So I'm encouraged where we're going. We have to keep moving forward. It's not, and by the way, it's not just safety. Safety is the most important thing, but just think about all the efficiencies. Think about all the opportunities. Today, to fly from Atlanta to LaGuardia takes longer than it did in the 1950s when we launched that route. And it's not because, yes, there's congestion in the sky, of course, but it's because everything is just slowed down to ensure safety. And so all the technology that we deploy for decades can't effectively be utilized to give you your time back, and the fuel burn that we spend and the lack of growth that you see in the domestic system is all a function of this. So this is a project that has a massive return on it. It's a bipartisan opportunity. There's very few of those, unfortunately, these days. And we appreciate getting the support we've had.
Well, having a focus on safety is going to have economic return. I'm hearing that. By the way, I'll tell you that our own studies at Siemens have shown that organizations that focus on safety actually improve their financial performance as well.
Yeah.
So look,
there's a direct correlation. That's what we always thought. Telling our people to do the right thing is always going to be the smart thing.
Isn't that amazing? Now, the other thing that's going on at the same time, of course, is trade disruption. I'd love to get your input on your view on tariffs, how that's affecting your own operations, and how you've been using your own voice in that field.
Well, it's been again, for many people in this room, it's been an interesting year, starting in the spring when the initial tariffs were announced, and we've worked through it. Our industry is in, again, a unique position where we are an exporter of for aerospace to Europe specifically. We generate as a country $100 billion surplus selling to Europe versus what Europe sells into the U.S. A net $100 billion exporter. Tariffs aren't going to help when you have reciprocals coming back. It's only going to hurt the industry, and I give the administration a lot of credit. They listened. We explained it as an industry, and it's not just the airlines, but the manufacturers. And we're now in a position where both in the UK as well as in Europe, we've gone back to the 1979 zero for zero, no tariffs, no reciprocal tariffs. And I think hopefully that'll be a very good template for other industries to start to reenact why we got here. There's certainly places I'm sure tariffs have some meaningful and significant reason why they could make sense. Not in our industry. Our industry is one in which this is one of the prized jewels for our country, and we got to make sure we protect it.
It certainly is fueling the rest of our businesses. I'm curious then about your take on the current status of the economy.
The economy it's a little complicated. Everyone's got their point of view. I think it's largely depends on where you sit. For our industry, our business, you all travel, you see it. We're doing reasonably well. Yeah. The consumer is in a decent place. The higher up the income spectrum to go, the better you are relatively. More so now than maybe ever. We do see on the lower end of the economic spectrum, there's definitely a lot of price sensitivity. One of the things that we focus on at Delta is that premium experience, that premium customer. And we live in an experience economy. That's what our industry is, and it's a premium experience. Over 95% of our revenues come from households that earn $100,000 or more a year. And by the way, that's not an elitist definition. That's over 40% of the households in our country. That cohort, I should ask Governor Barkin this, that cohort just since COVID, it started in 2020, has accumulated over $30 trillion of incremental wealth. between real estate, the market, cash, earnings, all sources of wealth. So they're spending, and they're continuing to spend. And we see it in our premium products. The growth is still in the 5, 10, 12% year over year range. So it feels like that's, and whether it's international, whether that's business, it's moving well. I'll also tell you that there certainly was a pause in the spring when the tariffs and all the uncertainty had a pretty big impact on consumer confidence. And we did see confidence come down. We saw business travel start to respond in terms of coming down, because people travel is the easiest thing to avoid, because you don't have to kind of cancel an order. You just say, I'm not going. And companies, will tell their travelers to stay home, and they say, okay, I'll stay home. You don't have to twist my arm too hard, to do that. And when the all clear sign started, kind of this summer, deals started coming out. People started to see it wasn't going to be an irrational journey. It was going to be a tough journey, but maybe not an irrational journey. Confidence started to come back, and now our business travel, we're seeing anywhere between, on a year-over-year basis, up 5-10%.
Yeah, that's an interesting signal, and I hear you talking about just that divergence of the top end and the bottom end. Is there anything you all are thinking about for on the main cabin travel?
Yeah, well, we've developed products that are very responsive to the price-sensitive traveler. Something that a decade ago was called Basic Economy, and so for people that want the Delta service, the great team of people that bring that service, the reliability, the care, we have a very, very lower end price point for you. Now, you may not be able to board first, you may not be able to bring a lot on board with you, you may not even get your seat assignment, but if your main reason you're traveling us is price, we have an answer for that. And now that's also been a big change in our industry over the last 20 years, and Delta's led that charge, because that used to be 20 years ago how people chose airlines. It wasn't loyalty, it wasn't credit card points, it was who had the cheapest price. And the industry, we had so many airlines at that point. Going back, there were 10 or 15 airlines, and just think about where we are today. We still have a bunch of airlines, but there's maybe half as many as there were today. And so from that standpoint, we said we can't survive in a world where we're a commodity. We're a premium provider, and that's what the investment started in: the service, the reliability, the experience on board, the lounges, the aircraft. And many of you who are loyal Delta travelers, you've seen that journey. And it's not something you can just decide. It's taken years and years and years to develop. And we keep now building and growing on that, because this country deserves to have a great airline. It deserves to have a premium airline that can compete with the very best airlines in the world. And I do believe Delta is one of those airlines, the very best. We are the largest airline in the world. By the way, our Centennial this year, we're the first airline to reach 100 in this country. So with all the ups and downs of our industry, I think that's a heck of an accomplishment by our people. And we're very excited as we look to the next century.
And tell me about some of those premium experiences you want us to be most zoomed in on. Yes, you've mentioned lounges, you've talked about gourmet food on plane trips. What are the things that you see are having the greatest impact?
Every plane we bring in, and we'll bring in probably close to 45 or 50 new planes, has 1/3 of the plane is in the premium cabin, up the overall seats. That used to be, years ago, that maybe was like 8 to 10%. Years ago, when someone flew first class or in a business cabin, it was largely because you were getting upgraded. 15 years ago, less than 10% of the people paid the product for a first class seat. And there's always something I couldn't figure out about our business. Why do we have to give away the best product we have to get people on? Because you had this upgrade philosophy. Well, the reason why is that the price points for first class were so high. And they were so high because it was really helping buyers, these big corporate agencies, to bring back to their bosses, to bring back to you, say, look at Barbara, we negotiated a 60% or a 70% reduction off of retail. How good are we, right? And so you get a pat on the back, and the whole industry operated that way. We brought our prices way down so that you can pay for that product as a consumer or a business. And actually, you don't have to give away your very best. We created new product categories like Comfort Plus and other ways in which we can still upgrade and still manage. But you want your very best customer sitting in your very best product, but you don't want to be sitting there for free.
Okay, you heard it here, folks, right? And so let's talk about that pricing, because earlier this year, you actually ended up in a little bit of hot water. You were announcing that Delta's going to use AI to help with ticket pricing. Ooh, take us through that moment and the reaction that you got from stakeholders.
Well, we had talked to the market, and it wasn't the first time it was public that we've been experimenting with AI for pricing. And as soon as I think there was a kind of a little bit of an innocuous comment that was made by our president on an earnings call, that the media decided, well, this sounds like something juicy. All we have to put is AI to get people's attention, right? And the ears perk up. And like all things AI, there's some goodness and there's some questions about what that means. For us, and again, I think most of you probably appreciate that, the machines already run pricing. We have at any one point in time millions of price points out there. We sell our product 300 days out, our schedule. You think about 5,000 flights a day, 300 days, all these different categories of seats and products and inventory buckets. It's impossible.
It's a perfect application for AI, actually.
Which is the idea. You just named it. But it's not an application for AI where you can get down and you start to offer. They thought we were saying we're going to go personalized pricing. So Barbara, I know you can afford this. So you're going to get this special price, which is maybe 20% higher than what I'm going to give to Governor Barkin, since he's a government employee who can't afford it anymore. And when he's off the dole, he'll pay the price too. But we don't have the capability to do personalized pricing at all. I mean, it's just, again, with these millions and millions of price points. So for us, AI and pricing, and we just even we haven't even rolled it out. We're in less than 5% of our international markets, just experimenting, seeing what it means. It's about efficiency.
Yeah.
It's about helping the human make better decisions as to, are you properly competitive in this market? Do you need to adjust up or down your price point? Because these things move by the hour every single day. And we have hundreds of people that try the best in revenue management jobs, trying to watch the screens and watch the computers. But it's a perfect application for AI.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not something that we think is going to be a huge revenue boost. It's going to be efficiency gain. And by the way, consumers probably will see opportunities where you'll have lower price points, just as well as you'll have opportunities where you'll probably see some higher price points.
What I hear you saying is, clearly there is efficiency and productivity to be working on right now, and a little bit of there are some no-go zones, like truly getting down to the personalized level. Are there other no-go zones? Are there places where you say, hey, Delta is just going to ensure that we don't use AI too?
Well, I think it's way early to be kind of so categorical in terms of what you can do, what you can't do, and we've been looking at a lot of things. Our industry is a tough industry. We have a lot of operational challenges, whether it's weather and what's going on in the environment and turbulence in the skies, whether it's fuel and what's happening in markets, whether we have thousands and thousands of staff members flying every day, and sometimes they might be sick, or sometimes you got a disrupted flight, you've got a weather event, you might have a mechanical event, and how do you? It's a very simple question. We fly basically many of the same routes every day, 5,000 times a day. How can you get smarter about it? Well, every day is different. Every day the environment. How can you be more anticipatory about what might happen and have people better positioned to run an even more perfect operation with the right operational decisions and technologies? And there's always going to be limitations in our business because it gets back to air traffic control. You're still using it against an overall framework, which is from the 1960s. So until we get that fixed, you're never going to be as good as you can be. But we can be a lot better, and I think that's one of the things that we're working hard at, whether it's in maintenance and predictive maintenance. The FAA does a very good job regulating our industry, and we have maintenance programs in every single fleet type across the board. Those fleet types all have pretty standard maintenance packages. It's like when you buy a car, you got your different checkups and your heavy check and your lighter checks. But you basically buy the program and you put in the maintenance and you'll operate the plane for 30 years under the same maintenance program.
Yeah.
That's probably not the smartest way to think about it, right? And unless you find problems, of course, and you have to make course corrections. A plane that's 3 years old doesn't need the attention a plane that's 20 years old needs, for example. So you can get smarter with AI and getting the data and getting the records. We're working on some interesting technologies that sit on top of some very complicated maintenance support services and engineering technologies to be able to extract, how do we prove to the FAA that we'd be better spent putting the maintenance here versus there? Because that's what you have to go do in our industry.
That's
you have
right.
To, you have to show,
For airworthiness
you have to show the
certification, you've got
regulator
to show.
this is going to be safer.
Bingo.
At the end of the day. And so those are the types of things that we're working on. We're really not working on things that are going to take humans out of the process. We're a service business. The reason why we're successful with those people that you introduced, it's not that we're brilliant, it's that we have unbelievably great talent that loves to serve. And all you want to do is put them in a better position to serve. For us, we're not looking at efficiencies, even in the AI models, we're not looking for it. We're just looking to be able to serve customers, serve our own people.
It's a brilliant opportunity. And it's something that we all think about, I know, of, how am I going to use this technology in order to, improve my operations? But what's really exciting to me is to think about the things we can't do today, which will be made possible by AI. I can't wait to see what you do with it. But at Siemens, AI and digitalization is one of the megatrends that we've built our business strategy around. Others are, climate change, urbanization, the aging demographics of people everywhere. I'm curious about what kinds of things you at Delta look at as the megatrends that drive the future strategy of your business.
Well, one of the things that we see is, so I get this question a lot at a very high level. You look at the domestic market here in the U.S., largest air travel market in the world by a factor of multiples. It feels like it's a very congested, very mature market. So how are you going to grow as your business? You've reached 100 years. What's your second century? And you were there, we talked about this at the Consumer Electronics Show when I had the pleasure of doing the opening keynote. Our future is really international. We're still going to serve the domestic market and get better at domestic and continue to grow, and there's opportunities to grow. But did you know that only 1 in 5 people in the world have ever stepped foot on an airplane? Only 1 in 5 people in the world. And that's our opportunity. Yeah. Right? And so to expand. So we're next month launching a flight to Marrakesh. Out of Atlanta, and we got whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in India, so many parts of the world, Africa, the South Pacific, we've been launching flights, and every time we do, we bring our brand, we bring our culture, we bring our service. People want more of it. And that's the opportunity.
Then you're enabling this thing we've been talking about as globalization, right? You can be anywhere now and be participating.
And people take, again, and it's a good thing, people take for granted that you can step on a flight here in the US and with whatever length of time, every hour, there's service and there's opportunities, whether it's hopefully Delta or somebody else. We want that experience that we have here to make the world better. We like to say at Delta, no one better connects the world. And that's our mission statement, is to make connection real. And it was so prevalent during COVID when certain pundits and consultants said, "Oh, the world is never going to travel again. We're going to live in the virtual universe, and business travel would never come back." Somebody we all know said that. That to us was the fight. It was like, no. The spirit needs to be together. And we can remember, I'm sure the Economic Club had Zoom sessions.
Oh, yes, we did.
There'd be a lot of boxes on the screen, and everybody would go get their own sandwich and sit at their computer. I mean, how awful was that? I mean, seriously, right?
Yes, yeah, I hear a lot, but that was awful.
I mean, there was no value out of that.
Yeah.
The value, by the way, is not coming up listening to what I'm saying. The value is the conversation at the table, the new people you meet, the ideas you launch, the opportunities you see. Yeah. And that's what travel creates.
Well, travel creates those opportunities, and I've been watching something that you all did this summer called the Route Race.
Route Race.
Okay, I'll pronounce it right. The Route Race. Think about this. There are route planners at Delta who are constantly thinking about what new destination needs to be added. And Ed, you asked the team, well, wait a minute, what do our customers want? And you closed that last week, 2 weeks ago, right before Labor Day. Was the end of the asking of the public. And are you ready to announce?
I am
Because
not.
we have the ambassador from Europe here.
I am not.
She really wants to know. We were talking about it.
I appreciate it. I've got our marketing team. They'd kill me if I went off script. But it was, your story is absolutely right. So there's 3 destinations. There's Ibiza, Sardinia, and Malta. And we opened it up to all our SkyMoz members and said, vote. Which one, and we had over 100,000 people vote in the space of a week as to which one would you like to see us launch next.
Okay, I want to do a straw poll just right here. Let's go through the 3 again. Raise your hand if you want to go to.
Ibiza.
Okay.
Sardinia.
Oh, I'd like to see that too.
And Malta.
Oh, sure.
Exactly, it's a hard choice.
I voted 3 times. Sorry, guys, but we're going to check these results, and we'll get the news back out to the Economic Club to see how well aligned we are.
So we'll be announcing next week.
Okay.
And what I'll tell you is the guys that actually do our network planning, I'd ask them which one they thought was going to win, and it came in 3rd. So.
So
it was very instructive for us to talk about staying close to your customer. Letting your customers pick where you fly.
Here we go. Okay. Well, all right. We have a voice, people. Listen, so we've touched on it several times here. I do want to shift our conversation into this subject of 100 years. So I, got the background that in 1925, there was a Delta airplane
it was a crop duster.
Crop dusting.
Yeah.
I mean, how many are we talking about? We're talking about one plane that.
Yeah, it started as one plane.
Flies over fields.
One guy and one plane.
Delta Airlines, 100 years ago. As you stop and think about this 100 years, what are the things that you've been reflecting on about what this company has done over this century?
Again, I think we take so much, not just our company, but our industry for granted what we've created. It's only been 100 years, right? From a single crop duster to where now there's billions of people that fly around the world collectively, or billions of times anyway, not billions of people. And when you think about the spirit of adventure and innovation, and everybody talks about innovation as to what's the next AI app or what's the next thing that one of the big technology companies are going to do. That's cool, that's interesting. But just think about the people, the real pioneers. The bravery, the courage, the willingness to invest and to put themselves, to give us this opportunity to feel like we really are global citizens. And it just, COVID again exposed it. It's because of air travel that families and people live all over this huge country. And when you stopped air travel, how desolate and how isolated we all felt. And it wasn't until air travel came back that things started to come again. Yeah. So it's an industry that brings so much, economic power, so much, social good, so much value to our world that we took for granted. And I've used this time this year to kind of reflect on those pioneers, the history. Again, at the Consumer Electronics Show, I had several of our oldest, most senior person, one of our flight attendants, has 65 years of service, and she's still serving, and she's wonderful. Could you imagine that? And the stories that she has and the history. So spending time with those people and really understanding, how we got here, it's really helpful because we're always on to the next thing. Yeah. But it takes time. It's helpful to understand kind of how you got here. So we've used this year to try to really isolate how we got here. And that documentary that we just showed the preview for, that's going to be premiering Monday night at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. So any of you that want to we've got over 4,000 people attending. We got room for a few more. You want to come to the Fox Theater in Atlanta, a very famous theater. It's going to be amazing, that premiere. And it really tells that story about where we're going, but more importantly, how we got here. Yeah, and so actually, I've got a really quick interrupt question. When was your first flight? Oh gosh. Do you remember it? Yes, I do. I was, I think 25 years old before I stepped foot on an airplane. Where were you? I flew from LaGuardia to Chicago. It was a business trip, but I was 25, and so I've done a number of different college commencements, so I speak to young people. And I use it to them to say, your future is unlimited, what you make of it. And the opportunities are there. And I know there's there's concerns and questions about opportunity these days, but I believe that more than ever. And I use myself as an example. The last thing when I went to school I thought I'd ever be was on an airplane, because I'd never been on an airplane, much less leading the largest airline in the world. You know, how do you do that, right?
Yeah.
And it's humbling when you think about it. They look at me like I'm a dinosaur. But I'm sure there's people in this room that share that same story.
Well, I'm doing the math in my head, and I think I actually flew earlier than you did. And everybody, I'll share, I was an American Field Service exchange student. I had asked to go to Germany, France, or Switzerland, and I was sent to South Africa. And the first time I got on a plane was to fly from JFK to Johannesburg, South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of those flights where you had to stop in the middle of the ocean and refuel and get on and go again. We have come a long way. And what I loved about your CES presentation, so at CES this year, Ed delivered a keynote, which I think will go down in history. I mean, I know that Kinsey's probably here, Kinsey Fabrizio. She would tell you, oh no, there are gonna be people who are, he just raised the bar and people are gonna go over it, but it was amazing. We were in the sphere. We got a chance to feel the rumble of an aircraft as an airplane actually landed in front of us, and it was awesome. But Ed, the most incredible thing was not this story of where you've been and where you've come from, but this idea of where the organization is going.
Right.
And the things you introduced us to, you showed us an outlook that went way beyond the airline cabin. Take us through that thought process of where you're going in terms of the adjacent services.
Well, we know in our industry, travel, the airlines often sit at the center of that customer decision point. But there's so many people and partners and companies that are in the larger ecosystem in Sphere. So we had that opportunity to announce several new partnerships, one of which was Uber, as an exclusive relationship with Uber focused on premium customers.
Yeah.
You realize the number one reason why people take Ubers is to go to airports. So it's like over 15% of the overall travel on Ubers go to airports. And Dara and I have put together this incredible opportunity for us to join hands in terms of making that travel experience that much more seamless, that much more premium. We had the folks from YouTube join us. We know people are on airplanes. You all have a lot of time when you're on airplanes, right? And what an amazing captive audience. And I still haven't really figured out how to best serve that, in terms of entertainment, and eventually, people always think it's a golden opportunity to monetize some of that value you create. We're not doing that yet, but you got people on average on our planes are 3 hours in terms of the average journey system wide, and you have on average 200 people on a plane on average, and you've got them all seat belted in so they can't go anywhere. And in fact, they're all facing the same direction. They're all, if you can't, as a marketer, can't figure out how to make some value offers and opportunities to that group, and they're bored out of their minds, right, at the same time. So we've invested heavily in our in-flight entertainment. We invested heavily in our Wi-Fi. And it's the reason why at CES 5 years ago I announced we're making Wi-Fi free. Now it's become a big thing around the industry because Delta's now made it free, and it's part of our life. You're part of our loyalty program, you get it, and it's a high quality experience anywhere you go in the world pretty much. We still have South Pacific to cover yet, but Viasat's working on that for us. And then we're bringing in partners like YouTube and providing exclusive content on YouTube, which will eventually open up even more live television options, the YouTube creator content. Our kids don't watch TV like we do. Still, I was in a hotel room the other night and trying to turn the TV on, and I can't figure out how to turn the TV on unless I've got a YouTube account, right? And it's like, YouTube has captured that. But, what our kids know is that we'll watch TV, we'll go on some creative content, we'll watch a film, but maybe only 10 minutes of it, and we'll get a summary of a football game. Whatever it is, that's all coming to Delta. And it's coming exclusively to Delta. And it's coming to our CPACs. We've taken all the CPAC screens, and we're in the process of making them smart screens. Those screens are dumb terminals, historically, even those that have it. Delta has over 150,000 CPAC screens a day that operate in terms of our fleet, and multiple times a day. So you think about how many opportunities that is to show content and then engage like you would your smart screen back at home. So there's so many things about the experience, and then we get to the airports, the Delta One Lounge, the Delta One Experience. But we're a connection company. We connect people to places, to opportunity. Our partners, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in South America, whether it's in Mexico, are all part, and Delta has a different partnership philosophy. We own stakes, equity stakes in each one of our partners. It's not that we think owning those airlines, it makes sense, but we want to be influential in helping them serve customers and make international itineraries easier. And so it's a much broader view than just getting on a plane from Dulles or Nashville to New York. I mean, this is about the world. And I could not be more excited as we enter our second century of flight. And I think not many companies get to 100. There's some in this room, but how many companies get to 100 and know your best days are still ahead of you? That's pretty cool.
Siemens at 177-ish. We could have been your babysitter. I'm just teasing. But here we are so privileged, and I think Delta is so lucky to have you with this vision for the future at a time when you're crossing this incredible milestone. I do want to spend some time for our members just delving into you and the things that you see. You've now been in the CEO role for a decade. Yep. You'll celebrate within the next year, 10 years as CEO. And of course, as we talked about at the opening, such incredible volatility. As you reflect on this time, talk to us about what are the main things you've been learning and developing, and the kind of growth you personally have experienced.
Well, just in that 10-year period, I think the thing that's changed the most is the need and the ability to manage the constituencies, whether it's your shareholders, whether it's your customers, whether it's your government, whether it's your community partners, whether it's your partners. There's so many, everything seems like it's on hyperdrive today. Yeah. And just in 10 years, that's changed dramatically. Yeah. And that's something that there's no book you can go out and read. You got to get in and you got to be in the game and you got to have an opportunity to learn. And so stakeholder management, I think, is one of the most important things that CEOs do. And of course, in your own people, most importantly, that you're responsible for. Delta, we have 100,000 people that I'm responsible for. Again, COVID and pandemic gave us an opportunity to do that. I was really proud of how the company got through COVID. We did not furlough a single employee during COVID. Only airline in the world that can say that. We got through it, blocked those middle seats and took good care of customers. Right? We didn't have playbooks that said when the pandemic is, this is what you do, right? But your stakeholder skills and constituencies and making certain that you're keeping everyone with you in that boat. And yeah, sometimes something happens and some article comes up on AI pricing and it's like, oh my God. But you kind of keep people moving. And I think one of the ways you do that is you portray a vision as to where you're going. Yeah. And you talk about it all the time. Yeah. You talk about it all the time. And it's got to be positive. No one wants to hear that the economy is weak and it's falling or this problem's going to happen and that problem's going to. That's what sells newspapers. People want to follow vision and they want to follow people that have an ability to take you somewhere. And that's what I've learned to have to do, to get out. And that's why we did CES, to go out and be willing to venture, think about 20, 30, 40 years from now, 100 years from now, what air travel might look like. And that's why I know we have friends from Joby. We highlighted Joby at the CES. All different forms of travel and opportunity. And that's what, as a CEO, only the CEO can do. It's not, you can't delegate that to a planning department. You can't delegate that to a board. You have to have a CEO that really believes and walks that vision every day.
We've seen some CEOs, though, who take the stage and it is only them on stage. Maybe even the avatars in the presentation are only them. And what we noted in your CES keynote is you didn't talk about yourself. You highlighted the brand ambassadors, the members of the team, the partners who were there, et cetera. This idea of stakeholder alignment, Fortune magazine highlighted you this past year and highlighted the fact that one of the things you had recently done was you had driven Delta to be the most profitable airline, the most admired among the airlines, and yet you had given billions in profit back to employees. Take us behind the scenes, the discussion with the board, the discussion with shareholders about that decision to actually share the profits of the company.
Well, we made that decision over 20 years ago. And it was at a time when Delta was in a tough spot. We've went through bankruptcy. One of the many things, it was following 9/11. And many of the airlines had to avail themselves of a bankruptcy process to get their finances in order. And it was painful. There were job cuts then, and there were pay cuts, and it was just a hard time. And employees needed to know that while we were making some very difficult decisions, they would also be the immediate beneficiary when things turned for those savings and those returns. And so we came up with a plan that essentially said, when we turn profitable, we'll give you our employees, and by the way, our employees are largely non-union, and not that it's not about union or non-union. So this was something they really had to believe us in, because there's not a union. There wasn't a negotiated benefit. We'll give you 15% of the profits of the company, and the management team doesn't participate in any of that. So any management compensation is pulled away from that. They get 15% of the real profits that they create. And just over the last decade, we've paid them over $12 billion, the frontline employees of the company. And so when you talk about aligning purpose and stakeholder management, that's a beautiful example of that. And it was interesting in the early days, we did it. We're losing money. People didn't really say, okay, that was an easy thing to do. The question is, when you start making money, are you going to stick to it, right? And we've not only stick to it, we kind of talk about it very, very, very boldly. I used to get a lot of questions from analysts on Wall Street saying, why are you doing, because we're the only airline that was doing this, and the other airlines have started to follow us, but why are you doing this? You can change if you wanted to. And I say, yeah, but that would be the stupidest decision I ever made, because they're the people that drive the profits, and they're the ones, the number one question they ask me is, what can we do to grow? How can we make that profit sharing bigger? And what do we have to do to serve better? So it really just brings them together to the point now Wall Street never even asked me about it. And if, in fact, if I decided, which I never would, to reduce it or eliminate it, Wall Street would probably ask for me to be fired, because it's become part of the fabric
see
and
the
the
engine and
culture
how it works.
and the return.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that in this past year we paid $1.4 billion in profit sharing, even after paying for profit sharing, Delta is the most profitable airline, even after the cost of that. So it tells you, doing the right thing is really the smart thing.
And this is what I wanted our members to hear today, right? All of us have to give this some real thought. You gave another example, I heard you talking earlier, about something as simple as how baggage handling gets done, and the way you changed the structure and suddenly performance. Just one more quick story about that, because...
Yeah, well, I'll tell a story on Tom then, because I had to correct Governor Barkin, which I know is not a popular thing to do, but I know him long enough I can do it. So we were talking about baggage handling, something that we all realize the importance of your bags being there when the time. And I don't know, fuel prices were up, things were going through the roof. Tough time back 12, 14 years ago whenever we started. Now all the airlines are charging with bags, including Southwest even, which pride themselves on bags flight free. They've even kind of come around to it. And the reason we charged for bags was, yes, there was a cost to that we were having a hard time absorbing, and flying these heavy bags was very expensive. On the other hand, Tom's point was absolutely right. He said the reason why baggage performance has gotten so much better at Delta is because you charge for it, because customers then have a higher level of expectation in return, and you want to make sure that you're exceeding their expectations. So that
and
actually,
that unit operates.
So that
with
actually, while people
yeah.
don't like paying for bags at times, they appreciate getting the notification on their app that their bag's loaded, and you just breathe a sigh of relief, or whatever happens, and the performance has been investing $125 million to redo all the baggage systems in Atlanta Hartsfield rate, as we speak, and it'll open up next year. And I only had to correct them a touch and say, yes, that's true, except that we also have this partner called American Express, and we're American Express's #1 partner in the world, and likewise, we to them and them to us. And they pay us a lot of money each year for that credit card, which hopefully many of you have and use, and thank you for doing that. 1% of US GDP goes on that Delta credit card. We have around $200 billion a year spent on that credit card. So that's not quite 1%, Tom, don't check me, but it rounds up to 1. We think about that on one credit card. And we're the most highest performing credit card in the whole American Express stack, including their own, by a factor of 2.
Wow.
And the reason how we got that started, get people taking the card, is that we got American Express to agree that if you had the card, you could get free baggage on Delta, which was the juice to sell the card. And so it's just all ways around. It was good, and the revenue came, and the partners came, and they're happy, and we're happy. We're taking better care. Customers get the bags for free anyway. If you got the credit card, it's a great, and we had to create all that ourselves.
And it's a great illustration of what I learned at CES, and I've been repeating everywhere I go all year. Partnership is the new leadership, people. I think you've even heard me say that here. But these examples where it's not about Delta determining the path, it's about working together for those mutually beneficial outcomes.
Absolutely.
Ed, I'd love to just close with any advice you might have for the business leaders who are here in the Economic Club of Washington.
Well, I could spend another hour on that. I'll sum it down to a couple thoughts. These are trying times, but we're gonna get through, right? And every year, you could probably say that, there's something different, something happening. There's a lot of positive happening, a lot of challenges happening, and we're all trying to make certain we kind of understand the tea leaves. As you said, the fog. I guess that's what Governor Arkin calls it. Is maybe
Tom had defined our economic situation as driving through fog.
Driving through fog. Well, our fog's lifting on the plains, fortunately. So, Tom, we got a pretty clear blue sky that we're looking at. But when you're going through those tough times and the challenging times, I mean, I think there's always a sentiment amongst leadership. Doesn't matter what you're in, to pull back a little bit, to isolate, to try to figure out what to do. As leaders, our employees look to us, the world looks to us for answers. Sometimes you don't have answers, and it's okay. And being vulnerable and being transparent and be willing to speak appropriately about those challenges is okay. And I think we all have to remind ourselves of that, but doing it in a way not politically oriented or whatnot, agenda driven, but just as you're taking care of your customers, you're taking care of your people, having that vulnerability and that transparency is key. And we certainly at Delta have experienced that. Again, we experienced that during the pandemic. The hardest questions I've ever had in my career was how we were going to get through. And many times I'd have to say, I know we're going to get through. I don't quite have it figured out yet. Stay with me. And then you have to stay by their side. And I think the second thing that sits right alongside that, the most important skill of a CEO, and again, it's going to feel a little different here. I think you think about the truly great CEOs, they're people leaders. And they're people leaders because they're humble. And humility is something we don't talk about, but I dare say the best leaders in this world are people that have the humility about them and a willingness to embrace. And we need more of that in today's world.
Thank you, Ed Bastian, CEO of Delta Airlines. What an incredible executive conversation. Thank you.